We'll proceed. The next program is the Reengineering Establishment Survey Data Collection of the U.S. Department of Labor. And our presenters are Catherine Abraham, Commissioner of Labor Statistics in the U.S. Department of Labor, and Richard Clayton, the Supervisory Economist and Branch Chief of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And welcome.
Thank you very much. Many of you may never have heard of the Current Employment Statistics Survey, but I'm certain that you've all seen newspaper headlines talking about the number of jobs the economy has added during good times or the number of jobs lost during bad. Those job counts come from the Current Employment Statistics Survey. Accurate and timely data on the pace of job growth are of critical importance to federal, state, and local policymakers, as well as to Wall Street traders, American businesses, and even the average American citizen. The Congress views these data as sufficiently important that I testify about them each month before the Joint Economic Committee on the day that they are released. The Federal Reserve Board watches the CES job counts closely in making its monetary policy decisions. States depend upon the CES data in developing their tax revenue projections, which in turn are critical to decisions about funding for essential services. The latest job growth figures can send the stock market either soaring or plummeting. Given the importance of the CES data to so many decision makers, I think you'll understand why I say they had better be right. To explain what we've accomplished, I think I probably need to begin with a very brief description of the way that we collect these data. Each month, information on employment, hours, and earnings is collected from approximately 400,000 businesses across the country, so it's a big survey. The data are collected by state employment security agencies for the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The survey produces national, state, and local figures on employment, hours, and earnings. Preliminary national data from the survey generally are reported on the first Friday of each month, just 2.5 weeks after the survey reference date, which makes the employment figures the most timely of the nation's major economic indicators. Until very recently, the CES data were collected exclusively by mail. Mail is not only slow, it's also increasingly expensive. Late mail responses often led to large subsequent revisions in the employment figures. Particularly at business cycle turning points, such revisions were a serious problem for decision makers who needed accurate and timely information on the strength of the economy. Given the problems of mail collection, the Bureau of Labor Statistics and its state partners embarked 10 years ago on a program of research oriented towards automating the CES data collection process. Rick has, during that time, led the team working on this effort, and when I'm done, he'll answer your questions about the team's experiences. Automated data collection allows the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the states virtually instantaneous access to employers' reports at a lower cost, it turns out, than mail collection. With our new process, respondents call a toll-free number and report their data by responding to pre-recorded phrases, either punching the data in by telephone keypad or by voice. The whole transaction takes less than 2 minutes. With these new methods, escalating postage, mail, and data entry costs are virtually eliminated. At this point, we've got about 60% of our large employers reporting using these automated methods. We anticipate that by the end of 1997, we'll have 90% of them reporting using these methods. But already, the impact of the innovations that I've described has been remarkable. Under traditional mail collection, we had about 50% of our survey responses back in time for use in producing the preliminary national estimates. With automated reporting, we get about 80% of them. Over the past 4 years, the average size of the monthly revision to the national employment figures has been reduced by about 38%. Last but not least, employers appear to prefer automated reporting. Those filing their reports over the telephone are less likely, 28% less likely, to drop out of the survey and stop reporting their data to us. An additional benefit that I would mention is that because we've speeded up the data collection process, our state partners are becoming able now to release their state employment estimates at the same time that the national estimates are released. We anticipate that that will become the norm within the next several years, obviously providing important real-time information to both federal and state policymakers on employment, not just nationally, but state by state. I indicated that these data were important to federal and state decision makers. Alan Greenspan, writing in support of the project, says the BLS's entry in this competition has led to significant quality improvements in an important set of economic data. Similarly, Cynthia Eisenhower, who's the president of the Interstate Conference of Employment Security Agencies, wrote in to say that she had found it of value to be able to provide people in her state with more timely information. In sum, then, I think that the project that I've described represents government at its best. Automated collection of employers' reports has allowed us to improve our monthly employment estimates while lowering costs and reducing respondent burden. I hope you will agree with me that Rick and his team deserve your commendation. Thanks.
Thank you. Committee, Max.
You mentioned earlier that the relationship with the states is very critical. This is going to put an awful lot of a burden on the state to adjust and to plug into a new system. How will that happen?
Well, we've been working with the states for the entire 10-year process. They collect, actually, it's a federal state system which we've been operating under for over 50 years, where we provide the methodological specifications for statistical production, and the states actually collect the data for us. So from the very first day, we worked with first 2 states, and then 4 states, and then 9 states, and finally we've got all 50 states in the District of Columbia involved directly in the process. So they've been a part of it from the beginning.
Madam Chair, can I ask just
Yes, please.
On the issue of replicability, isn't this a marvelous project, but probably no one else can do it? I mean, it's only going to be used in this particular agency.
No. The Census Bureau has already replicated touch-tone for their survey of inventories, shipments, and orders. They have replicated it for some other projects that I, for some reason, can't think of. Statistics Sweden has copied it. Statistics Canada has copied it. The Australian Bureau of Statistics has copied it. And there are at least 2 other major programs in BLS which are also looking to test the touch, tone, and voice recognition systems. It is replicated already, and there are other people who continually express interest in it.
Other questions? Anyone got any other questions? You must have made a wonderful presentation. There are no other questions. Mike, keep going.
You mentioned a moment ago the 60% of the large employers. They're still, as I recall, the figure maybe 100,000 small employers. How are they going to plug into this system?
The primary focus, they're going to be converted to touch-tone collection as well. Our primary focus was on the large reporters because they were the primary source of the revision. Larger companies have a larger bureaucracy, and their ability to report data to us within our very short 2.5-week collection period was hampered by that bureaucratic delay. So our target was those larger employers first. Over the next 2 years, we will have converted over 90%, about 90% of the total survey sample of 400,000. At which point we will have virtually eliminated the revisions that have plagued policymakers, the financial community, Congress, et cetera. So we're going to convert everybody possible to both methods.
Antonia?
Well, I guess it's a follow-up question. With our economy changing and a growing percentage of the labor force being with smaller employers, less sophisticated employers, what have you done to diversify and to make sure that you're capturing this change in the economy?
Well, as far as this innovation goes, we have designed it to be particularly as easy to report data as possible for a reporter of any size. The survey data that we collect is 5 or 6 data items. They're typically available off their payroll system, so it's all numeric, which makes it easy for touch tone and voice recognition. It's easy to do, and we've had people tell us that they very much like this method of reporting. They have asked us what other reporting can they possibly do that would, what other federal reporting or government reporting can they do using this touch-tone method? We've gotten feedback like best thing since sliced bread, all the other sort of platitudes, but our respondents have been amazingly receptive, and if they hadn't been, this would have gone nowhere. So businesses of any size can use it. Our first target, though, was the large reporters.
Richard?
What is the smallest jurisdictional unit that you produce data for?
We produce data for the nation, 50 states, and 270 metropolitan areas.
All right, do you ever get below metro areas?
Not with this particular program. There are other Bureau programs that capture data down to the county level.
I see.
David?
I'd like to ask the Commissioner, there's been a surprising degree of political pressure to reduce spending on federal collection of statistics. Do you think that with this kind of program, you've got a chance to turn around those attitudes?
I hope so.
Have you seen anything as you moved into that that gives you any hope on that?
Well, when we talk with people about this and some of the other things we're doing, this in particular, they seem impressed. People agree as well, I think, that the information that we produce is important. We're fighting against a general budgetary climate that may be so overwhelming that I'm not quite sure what will happen. I don't know if that answers your question exactly.
If I may say something. By reducing the cost of the data collection operations, which these methods do, they cut the cost of touch tone and voice recognition versus mail is about half for the ongoing production.
There's an upfront cost, but after that you reduce costs.
That's right. But what we'll be able to do is maintain, if budget cuts come, we'll be able, having done as much conversion as we have and as much as we plan, to be able to maintain the output by cutting the cost of the input. Normally what we would have done if we hadn't done this and developed this methodology, budget cuts would come, we'd have to cut sample, which would cut the reliability, and it would also cut probably the number of areas for which we could produce data. Depending on the size of cuts, and if they do come, we'll be in a better position to minimize the reduction of output to the public.